UFC 305 has come and gone, and Dricus Du Plessis defeats Israel Adesanya in their, what'd you call it, like a grudge match, I guess. Certainly didn't feel like it afterwards because the two fighters were very much on good terms afterwards. But now what's next? Sean Strickland versus DDP. Alex Pereira calls out DDP. DDP climbs the pound-for-pound rankings. A lot to talk about on the Fight Season podcast, and I am joined by Adam Fishkin. What's up, Adam? How are you?
Doing well, brother. Doing well. We got interesting topics today. I thought UFC 305 was a great card.
Amazing card.
Yeah, and I thought that Izzy DDP fight was great. So, no, I'm excited to get into things. But, yeah, where do we start?
Well, I guess I would ask, what was your favorite fight at UFC 305? Because I thought there were a couple of really good fights on that main card. I think we both will agree on what the fight of the night probably was. But what was your favorite fight?
Well, you know what? I thought Kai Kara France was being undervalued there as the underdog, and I called it out. I thought he had the chance of getting the knockout, and he did, and he got it in great fashion. So I think that was cool to see. But I feel like potentially DDP and Izzy was just the way the fight played out. Like that was a great fight overall.
Yeah, I thought Hooker versus Gamrot was insane. It was an insane fight. Could have gone either way on the scorecards. It was a great one. But yeah, you're right. I thought Erceg was going to be able to get it to decision. I knew it was going to be a war. I knew it was going to be like a really tough fight for him. Yeah. But man, when he got knocked out, I just Adam was right. Kai Kara France just knocked him out. That was crazy. He's probably going to be fighting. What? Go ahead. Do you think he's going to fight for a title now? Because I think that now if that flyweight,
because the flyweight division isn't that stacked by any means. Like he beat the last guy who fought for the title, and then the champions beat all the contenders already. Like there isn't much for him to go through. I feel like who else in that flyweight division?
I mean, there's Albazi, and then there's Brandon Royval, but he already fought for the title.
Yeah, Royval fought, Moreno fought. Albazi could be decent. They might set up Kai Kara France versus Albazi first, potentially. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because Kai Kara France wasn't... What win streak is he on right now? Is he even on a win streak? Well,
he was 1-2 in his last 3, and then he got the knockout. But it's also he's one of those guys he's a top 4 fighter, and top 5 fighter, and he just fought the guy who fought for the title, and he knocked him out. So it's I don't know, that MMA math adds up to him getting a title shot, especially in a division where the UFC is saying that they're starving for knockouts and finishes in the flyweight division. Well, you got a guy who gave you one on a pay-per-view just now in the co-main event. So I think it makes sense to give him a title shot.
You know what it was is Amir Albazi beat Kai Kara France. So Kai Kara France is on a 2-fight loss streak.
Right.
Amir Albazi beat him. So Amir should probably get the next title fight. And then you have Tatsuro Taira, who's the 5th ranking in the division. And because Kai Kara France is coming off of 2 losses, I feel like that's actually the fight to make against the undefeated guy. But at the same time, you might want to give the undefeated guy a chance at the title shot because that's a cooler story.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird. It's for the first time in a long time, the flyweight division's feeling a tiny bit more exciting.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens here.
We will be back to the video in just a second, guys. But first, I got to tell you how excited I am that college football is finally back. I'm so pumped, and I'm happy to tell you that Inside Fighting has once again partnered up with our friends over at DraftKings to bring you an incredible offer. Right now, new DraftKings customers who go download the DraftKings Sportsbook app can bet $5 and receive $200 in bonus bets just by using our promo code INSIDEFIGHTING when you sign up. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, do not worry. DraftKings has you covered because you can always just go play DraftKings Daily Fantasy Sports. It's my favorite thing to do at DraftKings. Again, new DraftKings customers who bet $5 can receive $200 in bonus bets just by using our promo code INSIDEFIGHTING. We will have to wait and see, but let's get right into it. Dricus Du Plessis wins the grudge match against Israel Adesanya. It was a great fight. It was a really good fight. Izzy looked amazing. He looked like his old self. He was, doing some really great things on the feet. Really close fight. I think a couple of judges' scorecards had DDP winning 2-1, and one judge had Izzy winning 2-1, so it was very close. It had a split decision potentially written all over it, and then DDP ended up getting the finish in the 4th round. Izzy looked a little gassed, slowed down a little bit, but great fight. A, what did you think of it? And B, what do you think is next for Israel Adesanya?
Yeah, I think you broke it down well. I was watching some analysts and they were saying how like Izzy isn't his old self anymore. And I was like, I thought Izzy looked good. Yeah. I thought he looked really strong. I thought he looked extremely precise. I think what happened is that he just made a single mistake and DDP jumped all over it. He was kind of like running away from him, looking at the cage and like looking back at Dricus, and then Dricus just kind of caught him, got his back, got him on the ground, and made him tap. So I think, all due respect to DDP, like he just like DDP is just a winner. Every time he fights, you're like, how did he win?
Yeah.
But like the common denominator is that he just wins, and he does that really well. And I think people are still like his next fight's against Sean Strickland. I think more people are going to be like Strickland fans versus DDP fans. I think most people are going to be on the same page where it felt like Strickland won their first fight, and that's why they think he's going to win this fight. And then I think I'm going to be leaning the same way, where I think like DDP just knows how to win, and he's just going to find a way to win again. So yeah.
It was super impressive. Dana White made a hilarious comment last night saying that a DDP fights like a white guy dances, which I thought was a very funny way of putting it. But I think just saying he's a winner is a good way of describing the way he fights. He just does what he needs to do to win with his style. And I don't know what's next for Izzy here. I think that he should definitely take some time off again. Maybe not too much time off. He's 35, 36. I don't know if he's done fighting for the title, but I could see the UFC trying to set up like if like, let's say if Whitaker beats Khamzat, I could see the UFC trying to do something like Izzy versus Khamzat, and I just don't love that scenario for him if that's the case. We'll see, but I think that we're always going to be living in a world where Israel Adesanya is like 1 or 2 fights away from a title shot again, just because he's been so dominant. So
I don't see Izzy fighting the winner of Whitaker Khamzat. Maybe the loser.
I said the loser. That's what I said. The loser.
Fight.
If Whitaker beats Khamzat, I could see them trying to set up Izzy versus Khamzat.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But if Khamzat beats Whitaker, do you think Whitaker and Izzy are fighting or no?
That's what I don't. That's another thing. Is like, I don't know if they're going to do a trilogy fight for a title eliminator. You know what I mean? Like, it's just.
I think the only fight that makes sense is Imavov.
Yeah, and that's like, does that get your juices floating if you're Izzy? Not. You know what I mean?
I think Izzy is at a point where he's done what he needed to do in the UFC. I sent it to you right before this, we jumped on, but I saw a little graphic on Twitter where it was talking about Anderson Silva and Izzy's careers, because both of those are kind of considered the middleweight GOATs here. And the graphic was basically, so in their first 7 years signed to the UFC, I hope we can pull this up. I don't know.
Yeah,
if there's copyright later, but Izzy is 13-4, Silva is 16-0. Their 185 record is 13-3 for Izzy, 13-0 for Anderson Silva. At 205, Izzy's lost once. Anderson Silva's won 3 times. When for scheduled undisputed title match records, 12-0 for Silva, 7-4 for Adesanya. Finish rate 88% for Silva, 29% for Adesanya, and Adesanya has been undefeated in the UFC for 3 years, while Anderson Silva has been undefeated in the UFC for 7 years. The point I'm trying to make is, if you look at Anderson Silva's more recent record, it is not talked about it like that. He's suffered a bunch of losses, and although he's fought some really good fighters in there, like I know you and I talked about, Bisping was in there. Most people thought he beat Bisping. Besides the point, he lost to Adesanya. He lost to Cannonier. He took some brutal losses, but against some very high-level competition. He's got 2 losses to Chris Weidman in there. I don't want Izzy to go through the same thing. I'm not saying Izzy's got to retire. I'm saying Izzy's got to do some fun fights that like maybe just excite us a little bit, and if he gets the win, keep it going. But I think end on a high, dude. There's no point of coming back in here and taking losses. I don't know. It's weird, especially at his age.
Yeah, I think what this graphic's also saying is that it points out that Izzy's probably not the middleweight GOAT. That this is implying,
of course,
this is implying that that Silva is the middleweight GOAT. And I think that's fine. That's okay. This is a compelling argument for that. And yeah, if Izzy continues down, he could follow in the footsteps of Anderson Silva and just start, losing a lot of prize fights at the end of his career. That's sort of when Silva started losing. I think it was in his late 30s. So it's definitely possible. Do I think Izzy's going to fight for a title anytime soon? Probably not. It'd probably be a year away just because of where the middleweight is at. But I don't know. I'm not done giving up. I'm not giving up on Israel Adesanya just yet. But either way, I thought he looked good. But that being said, DDP is the champion. He got all sorts of call outs. Sean Strickland was tweeting about him. It looks like that's the fight to make next. But an interesting one is that Alex Pereira decides to weigh in, and he posts a photo of him in front of a TV with DDP raising his arms, just, celebrating his win. And he, in the caption, Pereira says, "I'm going back down to 185, one last fight at 185 pounds." So he called out DDP. I thought it was hilarious. The way I framed it was this was Pereira avenging Izzy. I was sort of joking about that. I don't think that's actually why he posted it. But it's a compelling fight. DDP responded by saying that he wants to move up to 205 because he doesn't want any excuses for when Pereira loses, because the excuse that he would use is that he's weight drained from having to cut all that weight.
Yeah.
He says, "No, let me go up to 205 and I'll fight you there," which I thought was kind of a good response. I don't know what you thought of it.
I think we're so far away from seeing a fight like that happen.
Yeah, I agree.
So much competition in the middleweight. And I genuinely think, like, the way it's going, unless, like, I think DDP loses. Well, I don't want to say he loses, but I think it's a tough fight versus Hamzat, but I really do think that he beats everyone else in the division, unless we have some star come up in the next, somebody who's like 25 right now, next 2-3 years hones their skills, and it's like a new face of the middleweight division comes up, right?
Yeah.
Could happen. But like right now with the guys we're looking at, I think DDP keeps going. He's probably got like 3 to 4 realistic middleweight fights that he has to win before he can look at double champ status. He's got to be Whitaker or Hamzat.
Well, he already beat Whitaker, next. So that's
agreed.
Right.
But I think if Whitaker beats Hamzat, he's going to have to fight Whitaker.
Right.
So I think there's that fight. I think you have, it just depends. Like Imavov, if he gets one more win, you got to fight Imavov. Cannonier, if he gets 1 or 2 more wins, he's got to fight Cannonier, And I know he's beat some of these guys before, but I just think Cabarallo is another one who's fighting this weekend. If he wins 2 more fights, he's probably getting a title shot, So it's just like, again, so many guys to fight. But I do think that it makes more sense. I think Alex Pereira is calling out DDP because I think that he sees it as an easy fight. I don't think he rates DDP the same way he rates Izzy, you know? And so I think he wants to come back down. I think there's no point for him to come back down because he's already been the 185 champ. Like, what does he get out of it? I think the only thing that makes sense is for him to move up to heavyweight and win the heavyweight title.
I think that's
the only thing that makes sense.
100% agree with you. I think it might have just been him doing a little bit of trolling, if I'm being 100%. honest. The funny thing about it is you mentioned like DDP, you don't think he's going to lose. What a run for this dude. He beat Whitaker. He beat Darren Till. He beat Brunson. He beat Strickland. He beat he had to go through it to get a title shot. He really did. He had to go through it. And then he beats Israel Adesanya, arguably the best middleweight of all time in some people's eyes. So, just an incredible run by this dude. And it's reflected in his pound for pound rankings. He was bumped up to 6th in the UFC pound for pound rankings. So good for him. Izzy stays at 15, I believe. He dropped to 15. So he's still in the rankings. Am I right on?
Yeah. Izzy's still in the rankings somehow, if we're being honest.
Yeah. So it's fine. It's like whatever. It's not like
to be there. It just doesn't feel like it's 100% deserved. What I will say is what I was more upset about seeing is that you were right. DDP had a hell of a run to get to the title fight. He had to beat Whitaker. He beat Strickland. He beat Izzy, and Izzy is like on another level, you know, compared to some of these other guys. And I was upset to see Belal Muhammad ahead of him. That was the first thing that came to my mind. Is I was like, DDP's run has been like, and all to it. Like I've given Belal Muhammad a ton of hate. Don't get me wrong. I think he put up a great fight against Leon Edwards. I just think that when you compare DDP's run to Belal Muhammad's run,
it's interesting.
deserves to be just that one spot higher, I think.
That's interesting. Because I think like Belal Muhammad, I think is definitely not as exciting of a fighter as Dricus Du Plessis. No question about it. Like
Agreed.
DDP gets finishes. He's a very exciting fighter. He's willing to get hit. Belal Muhammad doesn't really get hit very often because of his fight style. But that's interesting. I mean, he has won like 11 fights in a row, and he had to beat Gilbert Burns. He had to beat Sean Brady. He had to beat, he had to fight everybody. I don't know. It's close, man. I will say it's close in terms of who's had a tougher run to the title, because Belal, the UFC did not want to give him that shot. So you could also make the argument that he had to work for it a little bit more because he had to overcome like the fan hate that came with him getting a title shot. You know what I mean? So you could make that argument.
Correct. Like Belal Muhammad's got more wins in a row. And so therefore he had a longer route to the title shot. And like, because it was longer, it's harder. But I'm just saying the level of competition that DDP has beat puts him higher, like pound for pound wise, it's like, because that's how I look at the pound for pound rankings. Like how many top guys have you beat?
Big. Yeah.
Exactly.
Is big.
Yeah. Like Whitaker and Strickland, like, doesn't put him in the pound for pound, or it doesn't put him in the top 10. But beating someone like Izzy, who's so highly ranked, someone who's beat Alex Pereira, dominating in 205, like that's what you get by beating Izzy. So that's why I thought one spot higher. But I guess they one more fight each, and then we'll be able to make that call. The last thing I want to talk about with this is I thought Khalil Roundtree versus Pereira was an interesting fight to make.
Yeah. That is super. It caught everybody off guard.
Yeah. I feel like it was like a Steve Erceg situation, like right place, right time.
100%. Yeah.
But I saw Jan Blachowicz came out with a good friend of ours, James Lynch, and they had an interview, and he was not happy about that at all. But I thought that was kind of funny. The funny thing is that Khalil Roundtree said he's not taking it to the ground at all. He said he's keeping it on the feet.
Yeah, I saw that he said that. I mean, you're making a deal with the devil when you say that you're going to stand and bang with Alex Pereira. You're running we'll see what happens, because everybody says that, and then they shoot 10 seconds into the fight. It's a lot of people are kind of ruling him out just because they think that this is like a free title fight for Alex Pereira. It's never a free fight in MMA. It's definitely a better matchup for him than Magomed Ankalaev would be, for sure. No question about it. I think people rightfully believe Ankalaev should be next in line, but I think it makes perfect sense. But I think the reason why people are upset, Jamal Hill was also upset, is that he just failed a PED test. I don't know if you just mentioned that or not, but
I didn't. No, you're right.
He just failed a PED test, and it's like, and now you're getting an immediate title shot after coming back. You haven't even gotten a fight in since, So I think that's a weird message to send, I will say. Yeah. But it could also just be a situation of circumstance similar to Steve Erceg, where it's just like Ankalaev had a fight book to fight Rakic. They're fighting at Abu Dhabi, I think. So it was just like a weird situation. And it also has to do with this UFC 307 card in Salt Lake City. They just, the main event at this point would have been Juliana Pena versus Raquel Pennington. So they had to do something to beef up the main event of that card. And so that's why
they did exactly that. And again, that's why I'm like, this is a Steve Erceg situation.
Yeah.
All in,
So the last thing that I really want to go over here is last night at the Contender Series, Dana White did let's start here. While the Contender Series was happening, Merab Dvalishvili, who's fighting, he's finally getting his title shot against Sean O'Malley at UFC 306 at Noche UFC. Last night, he decided to go on Instagram Live and post a video of him getting his eye stitched up. So he had a big cut. I said it was a nasty cut. It was like a semi-nasty cut. It was like a mild nasty cut, I would say, above his eye. But this is kind of like a big no-no, because you're 3 weeks out from a title fight. This could potentially get the UFC to be forced to remove you from the fight. When you post something like that, you are running the risk of them feeling obligated to remove you from the fight. And you're also giving information to Sean O'Malley that, hey, I have a big cut above my eye, which might be even dumber. Dana White was not happy about it, and he went off on Merab. I'm going to show the video.
Merab's cut. What do you know about Merab's cut? Can you make any?
The whole world knows about Merab's cut. He posted it. I mean, our guys are so dumb. It's next level unbelievable. It's all the stuff that I talk about boxing. What I will give boxing is when something happens in a camp, man, let me tell you what, it does not leak. You know, our guys can't fucking wait to throw it up on social media. It's a small cut. It's no big deal, but obviously needed to be posted.
Against a guy like O'Malley, who's a sharpshooter and who's a very accurate puncher, now all of a sudden there's a big target for him.
And why the fuck would you want him to know that? Yeah. It is next level stupid. Some of these guys are so stupid, it's mind-boggling. It's unbelievable.
He went off on Merab, just calling him stupid, saying, why would you want to let O'Malley know that? And then O'Malley tweeted out, this rat better not pull out of the fight. Because that's what everybody was already speculating, that this is like he's trying to get out of the fight or something. But Merab assured us that's not the case. And even Dana assured us that's not the case. He said it's a small cut, that it'll be sewed up, that it should be all good. So I think the fight's still on, but man, what was he thinking?
Like 3 weeks out, the cut will heal. The fight will still be on.
But he can't spar for like the next week.
He can't spar. And you're giving O'Malley all the information he needs. He's got a pop you right above the eye there.
Yeah.
And odds are he pops you enough times, whatever stitching you had is going to open up again. You're going to get all bloodied. Your vision's going to get blurry. You're helping O'Malley out. But whatever, like he knew what he was doing. Like he's not an idiot at the end of the day. He knew that if O'Malley knows I have a cut there, there's a chance he will go after it. But maybe that's part of the game plan. Maybe it's a fake cut for all we know, and he wants O'Malley to be hitting that side so he could counter him.
I don't think so. Those were UFC doctors. I'm pretty sure that were doing it.
So I don't think so either.
Yeah.
But long story short, it's just like you're an idiot, but like you're an idiot at the same time. So like if you're cool with that, then it is what it is.
Well, it's like the same thing happened with Charles Oliveira when he was supposed to get his rematch against Islam Makhachev. He posted a photo of him with like a nasty cut above his eye, and it was like the 5th round of sparring before he was supposed to fly to Abu Dhabi or whatever. And that's why Volkanovski got the fight on short notice, is because he had to fill in for Oliveira. So fans were speculating, like, are these cuts like fake? Are these fighters faking it as like a way to get out of the fights? Like, are they intentionally cutting themselves to get out of the fight? I don't think so. Especially because it happened at the PI. So like, that's why he got to the doctors right away, and UFC doctors were doing it. So I think that it was like a legit thing, but there is a conspiracy theory about Charles Oliveira and his cut above his eye that was fake. So, who knows? Either way, hopefully that fight is still on. I hope it is, because I think that card needs to be headlined by that fight, because you don't really want the Shevchenko-Grasso fight to be the main event. So, or you don't want Umar having to step in on short notice and fighting Sean O'Malley and taking the belts in front of, in Las Vegas. You don't want that. You don't want that happening if you're the UFC.
No, not at the Sphere too.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, so we will see what happens. But yeah, man, thanks for joining me. This has been fun. And there's going to be all of this stuff that we talked about today are like kind of stories that are going to be continuing throughout the year, which is why this is always a fun show to do. So I appreciate you talking to me about it.
Likewise, dude. We got to do more often. It's been a while since they've been on the Fight Season podcast, but I think we're going to end off the year pretty strong for UFC. I think there's a lot of things that can happen and that probably will happen, and I'm not aware of yet. And we got some big pay-per-views coming up. So yeah, some exciting action.
Absolutely. All right. Well, once again, thank you guys for watching. Make sure you guys take advantage of our DraftKings offer. As always, me, Jesse. This is Adam. We're out. Thank you.
Peace.